And he asked the question, who could know it? My fellow Toastmasters and friends, when I look into the human heart, I look at it with much pessimism and sadness. I see evil, I see hate, I see anger, I see suffering. The romantics amongst you would say, Paul, why are you so cynical? The heart is the symbol of love. But I would crush your arguments with 10,000 years of human history. When the German philosopher in the 19th century looked back in history, he called it the slaughter bench of humanity. When you look back over 10,000 years, he saw suffering, war, massacres, murder, rape. And the worst was yet to come. The 20th century dawned, and Europe was torn between the bloodlands of Hitler and Stalin. Hundreds of millions of people were slaughtered in a mad war of ego, of greed, of desperate desire for power and strength. Millions died in the concentration camps. And yet, after World War II, we were exposed to even more wickedness, even more evil. Pol Pot was yet to come, slaughtering 2 million of his own people in the killing fields of Cambodia. Mao Zedong was yet to arrive with a great leap forward, where he starved up to 50 million of his own people. And the Cultural Revolution that saw how many people died, tens of millions. And we were not yet finished. We still had Rwanda, just 10 years ago. No, 20 years ago, sorry. Where hundreds of thousands of people were slaughtered in 8 weeks, not with guns, but with machetes, up close and personal, hacking their necks off, killing them. This is the nature of the human heart. And you would say, but Paul, we are now in the 21st century, and I would yet say to you, there is still evil that reigns in North Korea right now, where people are thrown into concentration camps because their grandfather might have insulted the great leader. And you would say to me, Paul, these are all great historical events. I would say to you, no, they're not. They happen every day, every hour, every minute. In my own country, in South Africa, we have a big problem with baby rape. Children who are 6 months old are raped by grown men like me. And you'd say, but Paul, that is in Africa. This is Taiwan. And I would present to you the case of Wang Hao, a small 2-year-old toddler, whose nails were ripped off his fingers with pliers, whose bones were crushed with a hammer, whose feet were burned with hot irons, whose veins were injected with amphetamines and heroin, and whose young small body was thrown outside a hospital like a sack of meat left to die. You would say the heart is the symbol of love. I would say I would crush your arguments easily. And yet, on the other side of the balance sheet, we have tremendous examples of sacrifice, of love. We have Gandhi. We have Mother Teresa, who left her convent to help the poor by living among them, who gave dignity to the dying, those that were dying in the slums and the dirtiest hells of Calcutta, who gave food to those who had need. We had Nelson Mandela, who went to jail for 27 years to fulfill the ideal that he cherished of freedom, of equality, of equal opportunities for all people. We have examples throughout history. Today, Elena gave us an example of Easter. Jesus died for our sins. But we would say to ourselves, these are big people. How can we change the world? I must ask you this, what is love? If the heart is the symbol of love, which I reject, I would ask you, what is love? In the Bible, Jesus told us something very simple. The greatest love of all is that a man would sacrifice his own life for another. Sacrifice. Action. Choice. The Apostle Paul wrote about love in 1 Corinthians. The most famous passage in the Bible, possibly. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. sacrifice, choice, action. Last night, I was fortunate to go to Legacy Prestige Toastmasters, and I witnessed an example of this love by a very inspirational DTM, Paul Lee. He spoke yesterday how in his retired life, being disabled himself, how he volunteers 3 hours a week at a handicap center in Taiwan to help those who have severe handicaps and mental disabilities. Sacrifice, action, choice. I would say that we all have the power to change the world through the decisions we make every day, through the choices we make. When you walk out of those doors to your cubicles today, what choices will you make? Will you allow yourself to go to the default condition of man, which is evil? Or would you allow your mind to control your heart, to control your emotions, and to take actions outside there, outside of these doors, outside of this office, or in the streets, in your own homes, towards all the people you know? Would you take actions, sacrificial actions of love that would encourage, enable, empower, inspire, motivate, and build up not only yourselves, but those around you too? My fellow Toastmasters, will you give in to the fleeting emotions of fickle love with words like, I love you? These fickle emotions that cannot escape the vicissitudes of time, of other inputs and external inputs that we have no control over? Or would you choose to take actions that would reflect your love towards others every day? My fellow Toastmasters, love is a choice. Love relentlessly, always. Toastmasters.